we're going to read another story from Frog and Toad. We're in a new book, and this book is called Frog and Toad Together. Remember, it's also a chapter book, so let's look here. Here it is, the contents, where it tells the different stories or the different chapters that are in this one book, and it has the number of pages that they start on. Today we're going to start by reading a list. A list. One morning, Toad sat in bed. "I have many things to do," he said. "I will write them down, all down on a list, so that I can remember them." Toad wrote on a piece of paper, "A list of things to do today." Then he wrote, "Wake up." "I have done that," said Toad, and he crossed out, "Wake up." See him sitting in the bed making a list? Do you ever make a list of things you have to do? Maybe when you go to school or something? I like to make lists. Okay. Then Toad wrote other things on the paper. Here's a picture of Toad's list. It says, "A list of things to do today. Wake up, eat breakfast, get dressed, go to Frog's house, take walk with Frog, eat lunch, take nap, play games with Frog, eat supper, go to sleep." "There," said Toad. "Now my day is all written down." He got out of bed and had something to eat. Then Toad crossed out, "Eat breakfast." Let's see. Oh, looks like he had maybe a bowl of cereal and a pot of tea. What do you have for breakfast? Toad took his clothes out of the closet and put them on. Then he crossed out, "Get dressed." Toad put the list in his pocket. He opened the door. He walked out into the morning. Soon Toad was at Frog's front door. He took the list from his pocket and crossed out, "Go to Frog's house." Toad knocked at the door. "Hello," said Frog. "Look at my list of things to do," said Toad. "Oh," said Frog, "that is very nice." Toad said, "My list tells me that we will go for a walk." "All right," said Frog. "I am ready." Frog and Toad went on a long walk. Then Toad took the list from his pocket again. He crossed out, "Take walk with Frog." Just then a strong wind came. It blew the list out of Toad's hand. The list blew high up into the air. "Help!" cried Toad. "My list is blowing away. What will I do without my list?" "Hurry," said Frog. "We will run and catch it." "No," shouted Toad. "I cannot do that." "Why not?" asked Frog. "Because," wailed Toad, "running after my list is not one of the things that I wrote on my list of things to do." Frog ran after the list. He ran over hills and swamps, but the list blew on and on. At last Frog came back to Toad. "I am sorry," gasped Frog, "but I could not catch your list." "Blah," said Toad. "What's he gonna do?" "I cannot remember any of the things that were on my list of things to do. I will just have to sit here and do nothing," said Toad. Toad sat and did nothing. Frog sat with him. It's kind of silly. After a long time, Frog said, "Toad, it is getting dark. We should be going to sleep now." "Go to sleep," shouted Toad. "That was the last thing on my list." Toad wrote on the ground with a stick, "Go to sleep." Then he crossed out, "Go to sleep." "There," said Toad. "Now my day is all crossed out." "I am glad," said Frog. Then Frog and Toad went right to sleep. He's got it. So we wrote it down there. It's good to have a list. But that was kind of silly of Toad. He could have just done stuff. Yeah. All right, we are going to read another story or another chapter in this book today. This is called The Garden. Do you have a garden? I do. I have a garden. It's very nice. I have vegetables in my garden. Frog was in his garden. Toad came walking by. "What a fine garden you have, Frog," he said. "Yes," said Frog, "it is very nice, but it is hard work." "I wish I had a garden," said Toad. "Here are some flower seeds. Plant them in the ground," said Frog, "and soon you will have a garden." Is in his garden? "How soon?" asked Toad. "Quite soon," said Frog. Toad ran home. He planted the flower seeds. "Now, seeds," said Toad, "start growing." Toad walked up and down a few times, but the seeds did not start to grow. So it doesn't work like that. You have to wait kind of a long time. Yeah, it's silly. Toad put his head close to the ground and said loudly, "Now, seeds, start growing." Toad looked at the ground again. The seeds did not start to grow. It's kind of silly. You can't see them right away. You have to wait a few days. Toad put his head very close to the ground and shouted, "Now, seeds, start growing." Yeah. Frog came running up the path. "What is all this noise?" he asked. "My seeds will not grow," said Toad. "You are shouting too much," said Frog. "These poor seeds are afraid to grow." "My seeds are afraid to grow?" asked Toad. "Of course," said Frog. "Leave them alone for a few days. Let the sun shine on them. Let the rain fall on them. Soon your seeds will start to grow." A little wait, a little patient, a little sun. All right. That night, Toad looked out of his window. "Drat," said Toad. "My seeds have not started to grow. They must be afraid of the dark." Toad went out to his garden with some candles. "I will read the seeds a story," said Toad. "Then they will not be afraid." Toad read a long story to his seeds. All the next day, Toad sang songs to his seeds. All the next day, Toad read poems to his seeds. All the next day, Toad played music to his seeds. Toad looked at the ground. The seeds still did not start to grow. "What shall I do?" cried Toad. "These must be the most frightened seeds in the whole world." Then Toad felt very tired and he fell asleep. "Toad, Toad, wake up," said Frog. "Look at your garden." Toad looked at his garden. Little green plants were coming up out of the ground. "At last," shouted Toad. "My seeds have stopped being afraid to grow." "And now you will have a nice garden too," said Frog. "Yes," said Toad. "But you were right, Frog. It was very hard work." So silly. You went out and did all those things and stuff like that, but sometimes seeds just take a little time to grow in the garden. Alright, well that is the end of that little story. So we'll come back to this book and read some more stories tomorrow. Alright, hope that you're having a great day. Bye.